Welcome back. I hope you enjoy singing together. You don't have to speak. You can talk. So anyhow, it is good to be back. Glad you decided to come. Welcome to Singing Together Again. You know, we have a lot of first-timers here. If you're a first-timer at Harmony College, just stand up for us. We have faculty and staff. You'll see them with these fancy blue shirts on. Maybe you can just wave if you're part of the faculty. We have our evergreen board members, some up here in the VIP seating. And then there's our Hall of Fame members. We have several here in the front, scattered. They have the green jackets on because it's green. And you know, I couldn't do this without a staff. And there's so many people to thank. Judy, Mindy, Nancy, David, Tari, Duncan, and others along the way work a year to put this together for you. And we're so glad to see you here and happy for you. One more thing, we were using Sked this year, and sometimes things happen. So if you see that you've been scheduled for a PBI with Kenny Potter, join everybody else because everybody got pins for the same thing. So unless you really want a PBI with Kenny, which I would highly recommend, ignore that. So for years, there's been a quartet called Under the Radar. They've worked in schools within our district to get students interested in harmony explosion, to talk about performing and singing for life. The mission of this quartet is youth outreach for scholarships for students and teachers for VHS events, and they are a district resource for you to talk to over this weekend and throughout the year. Singing our national anthems, would you welcome Under the Radar? So, Judy Galloway wrote this first rule, and I thought it's so appropriate. If you wouldn't do it in front of your mother, don't do it. The other rule is about after-hours singing. Not that we ever do that. It's not after hours, it's all night. They would prefer that we not do it outside because we're in a neighborhood. However, there's 2 locations we can freely sing at all times. One is Kilworth Chapel. Kilworth Chapel is behind us on 18th, and it's open, and we will be able to sing at least until security kicks us out. The other is Trimble. Now, Trimble right now is a dormitory. However, it's fully occupied by barber shoppers. So my only request is that you be respectful of some others that might want to sleep. And so please try to do that. Respectfully sing, and keep the what I call barber screamers to a minimum, and so forth. So, golf carts. If you notice, the golf carts are a little bit different this year because we had to use the school's drivers, and so they don't quite understand what we do. So be patient with them. They will try to get us around as much as possible. They do have a list of people that actually do need to use the golf carts, and those people have priority. So you may have to wait if you want a trip, but they will be making the circuits just like we used to around the campus. So that's quite a change. We have people that have asked, so I will just put it out there. It's okay to change your class. You don't have to go into SCAD and do anything. Just if it doesn't suit what you want, find another class and go and be there. Our object is to satisfy the things that you need. And sometimes I know it's difficult from the descriptions to understand, especially if it's one of the Schwarzkopf classes. Can I say that? Sorry, Ray. The second thing, and this is kind of late, so I wasn't able to give notice for everybody, is we want Saturday night after the show to have an afterglow over in Kilworth Chapel, where people are getting quartet coaching this tomorrow and tonight. They want to demonstrate what they've learned. And not everybody can be on the show. I mean, we have limited time tomorrow. So there's a list that you can sign up for out in the registration area. And we will have some gang tag singing. And we'll be able to sing some songs we perhaps all know. So give that a shot, and we'll try to get that done. Now I want to introduce a friend of mine for quite a while now. He is currently the Executive Vice President of the Evergreen District, Mr. Bill Hickman.
Thank you all. I am here because I have been given the enviable task of introducing someone who absolutely needs no introduction whatsoever. If you have not been coached by Rob Mance, please raise your hand. Don't worry, by the end of the week you will have, and at that point, this will make a whole lot of sense. It's an inside joke for those who have been coached by him. I will let him explain later on. Rob is a man who wears many, many hats. He starts off tonight as a married man. He and his wife Kristen have been married 15 years and have a lovely little chihuahua. He is also a PhD candidate, and you might know him as the longtime director of the Central Standard course and vocal standard from the Central States District. He is probably better known to all of us in this room as a full-time coach in the barbershop world. He is a man who spends more time in the air than I do in my car. Last year, we took 8 trips to Europe, 5 trips to Australia, and he has more air miles. I offered to let him auction them off, but he said Kristen would shoot him if he did. He even took some time to have a few trips to the Northwest, and we have enjoyed him in our chorus, and I know you have as well. So please, would you put your hands together for one of the busiest men in our society, Mr. Rob Mance.
It is so good to be here with you. I have been to the Northwest a whole bunch, but this is my first Harmony College Northwest, and I couldn't be happier to be here. Anthony, got my little first time sticker here. Yes, Harmony College Northwest friends. I sure spent a long time looking at a blank screen, wondering what I might say, wondering if I had anything worth saying to this incredible collection of singers. Little background about me. I grew up listening to barbershop singing. My dad was a 55-year member of the Barbershop Harmony Society. He was baritone. So I grew up listening to him singing his baritone part solo. His other pastime was playing bagpipes. If you have any questions about me, baritone plus bagpipes, that should explain everything. But in all seriousness, my sister and I would spend many an evening perched halfway up the steps to our second floor, sitting there listening to my dad's quartet rehearse in our living room. We'd go with him when they would sing the national anthems for the Montreal Expos games. And loved watching his extra Saturday chorus rehearsals as they prepared for shows. But for so many years, even though we loved to watch, that was always the nerdy thing that Dad did. And even years later, when I developed my own love of barbershop singing, little did I realize how much this hobby could mean. I grew up singing in children's choirs, then children's choirs evolved into collegiate choirs, and my career goal, so I thought, was to end up in academia. I did end up teaching college for a few years, but I think it was barbershop that ended up showing me that this wasn't what I wanted in life. I remember after finishing my graduate degree, I moved to a new city, and we moved there so that my wife could complete her graduate degree. We didn't know almost anything about Kansas City, but there was a really specific graduate program in education that my wife really wanted to do, and we're like, what the hey, we can survive anywhere for 2 years. That's now been 15 years. And when we moved there, I only casually knew one person who lived there. But thanks to the barbershop community, we quickly made many friends. And maybe that's the first item in this reflection, that we are part of a community of some of the best people I've ever met, and one that extends all over the US and Canada and to many countries throughout the world. It doesn't matter what barbershop door you enter, you know that a warm welcome, friendships, and harmony await you on the other side. I wasn't yet ready to join a chorus or a quartet in my newfound city. I was somewhat overwhelmed by a new collegiate teaching position, being director of music at a church and singing in a semi-professional choir all at the same time. However, I quickly settled into regular coaching gigs with multiple choruses and quartets in the area. Some of you may have heard me tell this story before. I was working with a really quite good quartet. They ended up finishing in the top 20 that year at the BHS International. And to this day, they're very happy to remind me of the moment when 2 hours into our coaching session together, I finally exclaimed, "Hey, there's a chord!" Little did I realize at the time that I had become part of the problem. I'd grown used to how individuals spoke to each other in academia, and I was now introducing that into my barber universe. At best, communication in the music world of academia was direct. At worst, it was pretty crushing and brutal, and at times for me, it kind of felt like my soul was being ripped apart, and my love for music shredded before me. The more I started interacting with barbershop groups, coaching choruses and quartets, the more I started to see the wrongs in what I had become, and the possibilities of what we, the barbershop community, can be to each other. There's one catalyzing moment that hit me with such potency, it kept resonating inside of me for weeks. It's that moment that I think was the change inside of me. I was giving a PVI, a private vocal instruction, to a longtime member of Sweet Alliance, who was quite an experienced quartet singer. At the beginning of the lesson, I asked her if she had any particular things that she wanted to work on. She instantly replied yes, that Coach X had told her in a PVI that her voice had no color. She looked at me in the face. She looked at me with a face that I will never forget and asked me, "What does that mean?" A bit flustered and stammering for words, I garbled out, "What does that mean? I mean, yeah, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. That literally doesn't mean a thing." She continued on, "But Coach X told me my voice has no color." By this point, the color in her face had started to change, and you could see her eyes were welling up. I tried my best to reassure her that there is no such thing as a voice with no color, that it doesn't exist in reality, that it can't be measured with a computer, and please just ignore such a silly comment, even though it was coming from a very experienced and famous barbershop coach. She said that in her PVI, she wanted to find color in her voice, that this comment was haunting her and tormenting her. By this time, tears were streaming down her face. It was at that moment that I found out that this comment had been made to her 25 years ago. To say I was gobsmacked would be an understatement. I'm sure this coach forgot about the comment like 30 minutes later. And yet, this kind and talented singer, a dedicated quartetter, could still be brought to tears by the memory of this moment a quarter of a century later. A high-level barbershop coach had so invaded her thoughts, I couldn't imagine how much joy she had been robbed of. I think it was that moment more than any other that crystallized in my mind that in this hobby, we can be an agent for good or we can be a contagion of whatever well-meaning attempt had shattered the spirit of the singer. And I should have known better. I should have known better. As someone with ADHD, learning has always come very slowly to me. I might add that even though I knew throughout life I was different from others, I finally only got my ADHD diagnosis right before starting graduate school at the age of 28. I never really felt like I fit in. Growing up in Montreal, Saturday morning, all the other boys in my classroom would be going off to hockey practice, while I would be going off to choir rehearsal. I won't go on and on with the ways I felt different, just that I knew I wasn't like others. School at all ages and in all levels is rarely a universally welcoming and understanding place. Although it seems like some changes seem to be moving in a positive direction compared to when I was a student. Still, more often than not, education is a one-size-fits-all model. You will learn via this lecture, no matter what your learning style is, no matter what the best model might be for you as an individual, you will do what is required of you. And if you don't, it's because you're too lazy, or you didn't work hard enough, or you didn't put in enough time, or didn't pay attention, etc., etc. And then I think back to, hey, there's a chord. OMG. Was I becoming the thing that I loathed? The thing that had told me so many times I wasn't good enough? Since that time, I've done hundreds upon hundreds of PBIs with folks. A good number of them have involved some hand-holding, hugs, and tears from folks who've been weighted down with the words of otherwise well-intentioned individuals. I remember another PBI that I did. Another sweet Adeline recounted to me that she had given in a recording to their contest set tape checker. So for any of you who haven't experienced this before, many times in choruses, you record your part into, back then, a tape recorder, and then you give that to your section leader or tape checker, and they check for wrong notes or wrong rhythms or wrong breaths and give you back some written feedback. And she had given this to her tape checker ahead of their performance at the Sweet Adelines International Competition. The written response that she got back on her recording was that she sounded like a screech owl. I'm sadly not making this up. As one might imagine, she told me this with tears pouring down her face, wanting to know if she should continue singing at all. It took most of the hour lesson to convince her that she had a very good voice and that her voice was needed on the risers. This tape checker, I'm sure, was well-intentioned and probably motivated by wanting the very best for her chorus at International, but had forgotten the lasting and impressionable legacy that words can have on her psyche. With each new occurrence of stories like I've just shared, I promised myself with deeper and deeper conviction that I would, as much as possible, be an educator who lifted people up, who facilitated the easiest path to the goal, and who took care to do no harm. And that's no physical harm to the voice, for sure, but also no emotional harm. Do I get it right 100% of the time? No, I am not that naive. But is that the goal that I'm striving for every day? You better believe it. The voice is so personal. The voice is so personal. We carry our instrument with us wherever we go. It is literally part of us. With that reality, words take on an added impact. Therefore, acting with utmost care of the singers entrusted to us is the only option. There are many of you in this room who serve as directors, as section leaders, as visual coordinators, as presidents, and as team coordinators. We have the power to tear people down, to continue the cycle that our singers may have experienced at work, at home, and or at school. Or we can teach while building people up. We can tell people what they're doing wrong or introduce them to new possibilities. We can force our will on folks, or we can find out what their needs are and honor them. We can accomplish so many things via different pathways. I'm constantly asking myself, what is the pathway that will accomplish what I want to do while also doing the most good for my singers? We can create the environment and the future we want to have. Along those lines, I challenge myself to have a minimum of one meaningful interaction with each of my singers at every rehearsal. Every rehearsal. And a meaningful interaction isn't, hi. A meaningful interaction is, hey, welcome back. How was your vacation? Did you get to go rafting like you wanted? How was that? Did you fall out of the raft? I don't know. And none of that is fake. It's taking the time to make sure that I express what I want to express. It's all too easy to get caught up in the I've got to get this done syndrome on a rehearsal night. And in doing so, lose track of the human element. For years, directing my chorus, I would list out a number of objectives that I would have for that evening. We need to fix this baritone part here. Then we need to duet our contest ballad. Then I really need to get on top of this falling tonal center issue, etc., etc., etc. What was I forgetting? My singers. I was so blinded by the need to get things done that I was forgetting about their needs. Now, today, my number one rehearsal objective of every rehearsal is, did my singers have an amazing time tonight? How many of you here have read the 5 Love Languages book? A bunch of us. Okay, cool. For those of you who haven't read it, the premise of the book is really straightforward, but somehow I was completely blind to the concepts of it until I read the book. The premise is that people feel loved in different ways. Furthermore, people tend to express love in the way that they want to feel loved. In the book, there are 5 love languages outlined. One of them is acts of service. I take out the trash for you and you feel loved. Quality time. We have meaningful interaction with each other. So again, quality time isn't, sitting on the couch watching the same TV show together. It's literally interacting with each other. Physical touch. You hug me and I feel loved. Presence. I give you flowers, and because of that, you feel loved. And finally, words of affirmation. I tell you that you're a great singer, and that makes you feel loved. This works out great until you have 2 people who feel love in different ways. Both people are expressing love in the way that they want to receive it, and both are feeling like the other is ignoring their needs, despite all the effort they're pouring into the relationship. It's only when we start honoring the love language of the other person that they begin to feel what we may have been expressing long before, but we were missing the mark. Why do I bring this up? Though it's not an exact equivalent, I do think in these terms when I ask myself, how do I make my singers feel valued? And again, it's not because I'm doing anything disingenuous. It's because I want to make sure that what I'm feeling on the inside about my singers is received loud and clear on the other end. These are questions we all can and all should be asking of ourselves. How do we make our members feel welcomed? How do we affirm their successes? How do we approach every rehearsal night with the goal that our singers will have a great time while at the same time being cared for? I know I have too many conversations with my own singers in my choruses and with many singers from other choruses who suffer from an unwarranted case of imposter syndrome. Wondering if they belong. Wondering if they are good enough. Wondering if I'm just being nice to them when I give them a compliment. They ask me to promise them I'll tell them when they no longer measure up and tell them when they have to leave. It's our job as directors, as section leaders, as chorus leaders, and as barbershop enthusiasts to create an environment where our singers feel included and their learning is constantly filtered through the lens of compassion and care. I mentioned earlier, undiagnosed ADHD throughout my school years made learning a constant struggle. I think it's only that I'm absurdly stubborn, that I refuse to give up, that I've managed to continue to grow. Fitting in is something that never came naturally to me. It probably still isn't something. And yet, the barbershop world is one of those places where fitting in has never been a challenge. We can all be ourselves. It's a place where we can take our masks off, show exactly who we are, and be appreciated for it. And yet, I would submit that we can do even more. It goes beyond simply being accepting and welcoming. It extends toward creating a culture of belonging. If we continue to give our singers and each other the loving, caring, and educational singing experience they desire, they will continue to help build our choruses, our barbershop organizations, and the hobby that we all love so dearly. I hesitate to contemplate what kind of existence I would have had my dad and his dad not walked in together to the very first barbershop rehearsal back in 1967. The memories I would have missed out on growing up listening to my dad's choruses and quartets. The memories when he sang in the first chorus that I directed. Or the memories of him seeing me perform on the international stage for the first time and traveling with my chorus to Europe. Or the hundreds of barbershop friends I have made in the past 3 decades. These are all cherished memories, experiences that I will relive over and over again in my mind. This past year, we lost my dad after a 3-year battle with brain cancer. And cancer may have taken him from us, but it can't take away all the special moments we shared together singing barbershop. Thank you all for being here this weekend. We are the future of this genre of music. We have the potential to invite others into this world and create great music, the strongest friendships, and lasting memories that you can't create anywhere else. We are the ones who can empower and lift up our fellow singer. We can use our words to educate, to strengthen, to nurture, and to love each other. We can be there to validate our friend and affirm our friends on the risers, knowing they would do the same for us. Imagine, if you will, the lives that can be impacted by gestures so small, but ones that can create a generational impact. That is the opportunity that lies before us. Take time this weekend to not only soak in the excellent teaching that you will receive, but to lift each other up in the process. Take this opportunity to truly use this hobby for the most good that we can bring to bear. In a world that can so often be exclusionary, in a world that can so often tear us down. Barbershop can be that place of belonging where our talents are affirmed and celebrated. That is what makes this hobby so special. I can't wait to create many more special moments with you this weekend and beyond. Thank you.
Several months, a good friend of mine by the name of Ellinger and I and Judy and the whole HCNW team have been talking about some ideas about how to grow our chapters, how to adapt to this new paradigm that we're facing. So Paul is with us. He's been a friend of Harmony College for many years. So would you just take a few minutes and greet Mr. Paul Ellinger?
Thank you very much, Harmony College Northwest. It is a real honor to be here with you. One more time for Rob Mance! About 7 minutes, and I've been asked to just share a couple of concepts with you that I'll be fleshing out over the weekend. Some of them will be musical, but most of them will be about growth. And in listening to Rob this evening, it just really drove home for me the need to grow our chapters. And the why. Is the why so that we can have bigger chapters, so that we could sing in a larger chorus, so that we could score a higher level? Or is it so that we could give other people the gift that Rob talked about? The gift of somebody in their 70s that was told in 3rd grade by Mrs. Ashbaum that they should be one of their silent birds. Right? And those are hurtful things. And we've created an environment here where people can heal and belong and be a part of a family and be encouraged and given compassion and yes, even love. But you know, there's some things that are going on within our society that are keeping us from growing. Now, what I'm about to say may sound like I'm trying to be prideful, and I'm not. I'm trying to be factual. There actually is an approach available that has a 100% success rate when growing chapters. I know, because I created it. So the question is, if we have something that works 100% of the time, why isn't everyone doing it? And it took me a while to figure this out. Like, are you kidding? This works, everybody. Come on, what's going on? And there are examples right here in the Evergreen District. Went out and worked with a group. They had 24 members. I went out in October. They embarked upon the approach in November, and in the middle of November, and 6 weeks later, and by the end of the year, they had 51 members. Right? Yeah, right? Then the other thing that I discovered is once you start to grow, why does it stop? That's another thing. Why does it stop? We don't need it to stop. So I started putting together this idea of what are the things that we actually need to talk about or address or reason through? Like, why do we want to grow? To give or to get? And so one of the things that I came up with recently is a simile. I wanted to say an analogy, but my voice corrected me and said, no, when you say it's like, it's a simile. So apparently I'm not educated. So I've got a simile for you. Let's assume that all of us in the room have a mild interest in ballroom dancing. Okay? Ballroom dancing. And then, just through happenstance, here's somebody talking about it at work, looking online, because Google knows, or in the paper, and you hear about ballroom dancing, and you think, well, I'll try it out. Yeah? And you could go with your significant someone, or you could try to meet a significant someone there. But let's say that you're going to try this out. Now, how long do you think one session will last of ballroom dancing? Just shout it out. How long? An hour is the number one answer that you get when you ask this question. The next question you would get, I would ask you, the next answer I would ask for is, how many sessions do you think this will go? Once a week for how long? 6 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks is the most common answer. So if we were playing Family Feud, that would be the number one answer again. And then the question would be, what kind of music do you think you would hear during your ballroom dancing experience? Barbershop? Okay. Nice. Now the answer is, because I've checked them out online, they ask you what music you're familiar with. Oh. So wait a minute, if I stand over here, can you still hear me? So let's say now that we can, so that's a pretty easy on-ramp, yes? Once a week for 6 weeks, dancing to music that you're familiar with. You now have the experience of someone who has not joined barbershop yet. Yeah? And can now see things from a different perspective through a different lens. So now let's put barbershop in place of ballroom dancing. Yes, you will now join us once a week for 3 hours for the rest of your life. Never heard. Yeah. Marketing 101. All right. So there's lots of things that we can easily do to make this wonderful environment. And I love that this keynote, I just got goosebumps again, Rob. This wonderful keynote address. This environment, this family that we've created, we owe it to people outside of ourselves to allow them to be part of this. So here's another thing. There is a more practical part of growing. When I go around and I work with groups, guess what the average size of a chorus is right now that I go, at least I go?
20.
14.
We do.
14. You do get some that are 30, and that's a big chorus. Yeah? How many of you are in a chorus in the teens? Right? Look at that. And when you have a chorus in the teens, pretty soon you have people moving parts in order to just get all the parts. Yeah. So we're at critical mass. That's another reason to move. So this weekend, I was thinking about a new perspective about growth. And no, I think it's a now perspective about growth. And so I'm not here to paint a bleak picture. I'm here to paint a vibrant future. And I'd like to share an announcement with you. As Glenn stated, he and I and Judy and many members of the team have been working together for, well, he said several months. COVID has this effect on time. So it's been a couple of years. And I would like to announce something here tonight. Harmony College, Northwest, with the support of the Evergreen District and Regions 13 to 26. Am I missing anybody else? Okay. Are going to be making available a boundless growth initiative. Boundless. The vision is not to get to 50 members. If you can get to 50, you can get to 80. And if you can get to 80, you can get to 100. And if you can get to 180, the goal is to have within a chapter multiple locations meeting at multiple nights and having over 500 members in a chapter. And it's all laid out and available. The neat thing is that with our launch, our beta launch, every chapter can apply. And guess how much it's going to cost? $0 and 0 cents, because we're about giving. Now, we won't be able to handle 47 chapters. We would like everyone to apply. And then we're going to take 3. Because here's another thing that I've learned, everybody. I've been brought out to different parts of the country, different districts, and say, I want you to teach a regional event here and here and here so everybody in our district can hear it. And no one will do it. So, what we need are just a few successes. And the only cost is, when you have a success, are you willing to give back to the next course to help them? Sounds like we're in it together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
And if you would like to be a part of the team, the Harmony College Northwest team, the Evergreen District, Region 13 and 26, then let us know. There's a secret little link on the Harmony College Northwest website in the upper right. I didn't know how to hook that up to any kind of screen, so you're going to have to figure it out. It's like the secret menu. It's like the secret menu. So if you'd like to apply, it will be out there. And if you can't figure out how to do this internet thing, have you heard of the internet? Yeah. I read it last night. Horrible ending. And if you can't work that out, let me know. Where's Glenn? Oh, Judy's not here. Let Judy Galloway, Glenn Haley's, or myself know, and we'll get on that internet thing and figure it out for you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to serve. And I'm hoping that it's an encouragement that has each and every one of you wanting to be a part of moving this wonderful hobby forward, either by example or by becoming a part of the team to support the people that we're helping to move and lead the charge. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
What? Protect here.
These guys are crazy. Artistic license would like to introduce themselves. We just waited 4 hours for a flight. They had a quick meal at our dining center, so be kind. Ladies and gentlemen, artistic license.
I was walking alone, minding my business when love came and hit me in the eye. Watch out, get out, look out, 'cause it's love, so you better run and hide, run and hide. Look out, you better run and hide. Look out where you're going, there's danger ahead. That signal is showing a definite red. Look out what you're doing, you're caught in the pot. Whatever she's brewing, stay out of the pot. You better get wise, here's what I advise. When she sighs, squeeze, freeze, blame it on the breeze. Start to sneeze, get the measles. She'll get you off balance, then suddenly shout. Duck when she throws her hook out, and don't let your heart get took out. Just pick up your pack and cook out. Look out, look out, look out for love. Look out where you're rowing, stay close to the bank. That river is flowing right into a tank. Look out what you're doing, snare out in the loose. You're liable to amble right into a noose. You better look out, you better turn about like a shroud of the dam. Scram, take it on the lamb. It's a jam, it's a stampede. She'll talk to her lawyer, where by and where up. She'll get the marriage book out, and she'll pick the perfect nook out. Yes, her welcome mat's been shook out. Look out, look out, watch out, get out. Look out for love, look out for
Well, thank you. Wow, that was awesome. This is, there is no better audience anywhere on the planet than a group like you, some of our very best friends, barbershoppers. You know us, you know our hearts. You're just as sick as we are. That's great. That's right. You could have chosen to be anywhere, and you chose a weekend hanging out, well, amongst us. So, you know, it's, we're super, super grateful to be here. I can't tell you, we've been looking forward to it for months and months and months. We even told Southwest Airlines, hey, can you just delay our flight a couple of hours? We want to build you the suspense. Just trying to keep things on the edge. You know, why make it easy? Delay our bags, give us traffic, anything really, just to make it more fun. But I thought we'd take just a second to introduce one another. So we are Artistic License. Yeah. We've been together for, well, too long. No, I'm just kidding. Since 2011, maybe 2010. And we have loved every minute. And I'm going to introduce first our fantastic tenor singer, Mr. Julian Kusmanov. Julian has 2 little girls. Yes, that's very true. They are adorable. They're just so wonderful and they're so sweet. Everything about Julian's life is just rainbows, unicorns, puppies, and butterflies. So if you see him around this weekend, right? Give him like a chest bump or a head nod, just something to make him feel a little testosterone. Right? That's Julian.
Next to Julian, our beloved lead singer, the Velvet Troubadour, the man who does have more years behind him than the rest. Every quartet has one. And most of the time we don't notice, but he was talking about looking up stuff when he was younger, and he used this term, and I was uncomfortable. He said, funk and wank. Anyway, evidently, I still don't know what it is. But Rich Brother, hey!
All right, so we have our lovely bass, Mr. Jason Dyer over here. He's got 2 little boys at home, just about a little older than my girls, and so, you go over to his place and you just, you walk in and there's just destruction everywhere. Bumping into walls and all that kind of stuff, and then his kids get home. Jason Dyer.
And last and certainly least, our our baritone on the end, many of you know, a former Evergreen member, always Evergreen member, to remind you of his duck. And for those of you who don't know Gabe, he's kind of an anomaly, right? He is one of the most right-brained people I've ever met. Super creative. He has a degree, a master's degree in music. Super creative. But he spends his days, he is the financial director of a firm. He will spend all day in a spreadsheet and love it. He's got another master's degree in accounting. So both of them, he is big on the right-hand side, super left-brained as well, but there's nothing in the middle. Mr. Gabe Wood. At least we like each other, that's okay. Well, what a treat. I think I did the math. It's been 15 years since I've been to Harmony College Northwest. I was here with a quartet called Late Show that was short-lived. But anyway, we had a great time here. But I relished the chance to come back home to the Evergreen District where I started in the Eugene chapter, December of 1986. I was 2. Where else can I come and beat up on one of my college roommates in a coaching session? Then Harmony College Northwest, Kobe. I'm going to make him cry. That's my goal. Make Kobe cry in the coaching session. No, it's, just to give you an idea of how long it's been, the Turner Stiers, Ted and Turner, they hadn't hit puberty when I started barbershop. So, to give you an idea how long it's been. We're going to continue now with our last song. Hey, last song. This is a wonderful, inspired arrangement Steve Tramak did for us, put together. It has a little bit of a Disney vibe, but not too much. There may be more later. Whenever I am weary and my burdens all have grown, I turn to the night sky and far I call my own, somewhere I can run to just across the Milky Way. I can take you, it's just a light year and a day. I know a place where dreams are born. Time is never planned, it's not a chart you must find.
So we're a little bit early, but that's okay.